Oh yeah, I'm messing with this thing. See if it works. Well, we got all kind of rain right now. Not a day to film your fishing and stream, that's for sure. Well, it's a good day to still, but it's raining. So gotta find an undercover if I was to fish today over out here. That's my state for you where I live. Just rain. Rain. God. Dang, I don't know. Sit here for a minute. Anyway, happy Friday, everybody. Everybody's excited for their weekend. I'm sure. Yeah. Sure, everybody's excited for their weekend. Sure, they're excited for their weekends and stuff. I wish it wasn't raining like it is here. I should have went the day before. We had some sunshine for a couple hours. Went out there and caught some fish, or at least tried to. But it's a state I'm in. It's always this time of year. We go from snow, then it's just rain, then we go to a little sun for about 3-4 months, and then we go right back into rain, and then we go into wind, and then we go to rain, pretty much rain, and then snow. Yeah, so we only get like 3 or 4 months, maybe 4 months, maybe where it's like 4 or 5 months, maybe where it's not like okay every other day we got a little bit of rain. We still get rain in those months too, though, but it's just not. It's just like it might rain once in the month because it's June, or twice or something, and then July it's like dries up, and then in August you might get like a little bit of rain. Hey, Jeremy. Hey, Matthew Adventures. Yeah, I'm sure everybody's getting ready for the weekend. Hopefully something good. You get to do something good for the weekend. We're getting, closer and closer. April's almost here, and then next thing we'll be in May, and next thing you know, we'll be in summer. And I'm excited. I was excited for this month, but the fishing was, I fished and it was curdling wind, and it was the one day, and then it actually dropped ice and like a little bit of snow. And I did catch some fish, but I was like, it's just a little cold, but not cold for the trout. It was like not too cold for some little wild trouts that come around, but it was just like, I walked around, searched around, and only found one area where they were kind of feeding. So walked a little stretch of the lake. So crazy in the world. Yeah. It's funny what's funny about YouTube too, the trolls, the random comments that you get is this. I'm looking at this one that just came in, and it got immediately like YouTube flagged that one on its own, and it was so funny. I'm just cracking up right now. Like, what? Like, some of the comments sometimes you're just like, huh? Like, what? Like, that's crazy. That's crazy work. Oh, someone else got it. Okay, that's what happened. That was crazy. That's crazy work right there. People are funny, man. People are funny. Yeah, I was like, let me chat for a minute. I'm glad everybody's, the fishing community and everybody else that I'm interworking with, they're having a good day today, and everybody's happy it's Friday, and they're streaming, and everybody's kind of doing stuff they want to do. And some people was like, you guys got better weather than me right now. I'm getting rain. You can hear the police. I'm kind of like near this, like a city area right now. So like, city's like close, so you can hear the cop cars down in the city right now. The sound, something going on. People coming home from work, probably car accidents or something down there. Who knows? Yeah. That's crazy though. I decide what I want to. I think we're supposed to have good weather Sunday. That's what I'm thinking. So I might be able to stream something maybe on Sunday, maybe something. I'm not sure. Like some fishing a little bit. That might be cool. And then I gotta do the classic thing. Time to figure out what I want to do with what I want to get on my license this year, my fishing license this year, because the one I be up pretty soon. It's gonna be up. So I'm trying to decide like what do I want to put on there. For the things I want to purchase on there, I think I'm gonna do. Um, I think I'm gonna do. I guess they got the seaweed license. I think I'm gonna do that, and then I'm gonna do saltwater because I think I want to try to do some little. Doesn't want to go for some lingcod and some rockfish for a little bit, at least a couple times in May because in the area I fish for where the lingcods would be where I'm at, the closest place it's only open till June 15th, I believe, and so I have to. It's like because it's a short. It's not like the open ocean, the Puget Sound. So some areas have like a different. So each area of section of the Puget Sound has like a different, little bit different regulations due to like the rivers that drop into there and all these different factors. So there's like you can go to one area, you can keep a steelhead from the ocean. You go to another area, it's different. You can't. When you go to another area, you can keep a cutthroat trout that's sea running. If you catch it in the ocean, you go to another spot, you can't. You gotta throw it back. So you get kind of a mixed bag of stuff depending on what area you're in. Hello, Soul Reaper. Yeah, you get different stuff depending on what area you're in. So I was like, I'm gonna do saltwater, freshwater. Get my car for catching steelhead, salmon, steelhead. I'm thinking if I want to do crab or not. I'm probably just gonna do crab too, and that'll be what I do for this year. I think. I don't know. I don't know about sturgeon because I have to go to like. There's a couple of rivers that have them, but for me it's a good little. So it'll be a nice little journey to do anything like that to get to those areas. So I don't think I'll be doing that. But some of the other stuff, yeah, have fun, have some fun. Hey, Erman. Thanks for swinging by and stopping by. Just hanging out, chat for a minute. Yeah, I'm thinking Sunday I might try to stream and go fishing a little bit. Sunday or Monday? Monday might be better. Sunday's gonna be a lot of people out and about. Obviously, it's the weekend, so I might wait till like Monday. It just depends on if the weather cooperates because it's hard to stream something in the rain. I actually kind of came up with like a little hack to try to see if I could still do it, but the problem is I don't think you'll be able to hear me. So I don't know if the sound's gonna come in right. That's what I was worried. I was like, I don't think you'll be able to hear me right because it'll protect what I'm doing from the rain, but then you won't be able to. You might not be able to hear nothing. You might not be able to hear anything. So it looks like a little activity over here. Some people hanging out. I thought the kids and people would be out of school already. Maybe it's the younger kids or something. I don't know. Like people showing up over around here like all of a sudden. A lot of people. Cool. Anyway, yeah, I was talking about a lot of stuff yesterday. I was just going in, kind of bouncing all over the place, little wacky stories and stuff, and explaining all these crazy things that I've experienced. It's almost like you felt like you're running away from these other human beings because it's like they're trying to get you. That's kind of a weird feeling when you feel like they're trying to get you. It's almost like, yeah, we're trying to, and you wonder why someone would want to put something on you to try to get you off the earth, that kind of stuff. You realize it was for no reason, or because your spirit can see something and someone else didn't like it, whoever has that ability. So person in higher authority power in this society or something, and you find out that, and you're like, but why? And then you question it, but you don't really get any true answers, so you have to kind of come up with your own conclusions, because if you didn't really do anything to anybody, but you've seen them situations where they try to get you into situations to get you to fall and get other people to turn at you to get you out of here or whatever, you start realizing it's not just, it's not you're a bad person. Sometimes it's the an illusional manipulation of those other people to around you, to try to kind of get you in these, like, as some would say, reindeer games. Like, well, you're like, why is this happening? But yeah, that's what I kind of realized. A few people, I could tell, I kind of know what I'm talking about. And I realized they've joined some of my streams and stuff, and subs and stuff, and I think they understand what I'm talking about, because I'm pretty sure they went through it too. And some of them, I know they can be the opposition too, where there's like, well, let's see what he's saying, But I ain't saying nothing that none of those people, I'm probably sure, don't like either. So they probably were fed up with it either too. And then one person, like I was saying the day before, some people say they don't care. They're like, I don't care, I just do it. And I'm like, and then I'm like, you don't. And then someone said, no, I don't like that. I don't like doing this weird stuff. And I was like, well, if everybody feels that way, but then they're just, it's like that. It's like that. You kind of go, well, oh, we're supposed to vote. Is there a vote on that? Like, isn't there a vote on that or something? Like, but I guess that's not how it works. I guess that's not how it works. In whatever those groups, secret groups, or whatever you want to call it is. I guess that's not how it works for whoever's who's controlling everybody or whatever, who's in the most power of everything. So that's kind of scary too, kind of in a way, because it makes you wonder about other things. And like I was saying, in other, like, societal groups, countries, everything, it starts making you wonder about everything. You're like, I don't know, but I'm trying to live a decent existence, I would say. Definitely trying to live like a decent, some kind of existence. And that's why I said, some people, it's not always. Sometimes it's not always what you have. Sometimes your knowledge is the knowledge you might have possess is a lot more powerful sometimes. Yeah, sometimes what you have, and people, other people who are very more material, or, they're like, well, you don't have you don't have to think this what I own, or this car, and it's cool to flex I think it's cool to be able to flex that you have those things, in a way, but it gets to a point where it's just like, you're trying to make someone, some people make them feel bad about not having those things. Some people have that mentality. They're like, well, then you need to get your money up. But I know people who really got their money up, and then we're just, like I was talking about the guy, like, that I met, and the wife took everything, and he was in the car, and he looked like he was homeless, and he had a tent and all this stuff, but it was like, I owned like this crazy home, and you found out he had all the things you could think of a high-end middle-class American would have. He had a nice house. I got like this many cars, and I got the nice driveway, and he had all of that, and it all gone. And then he's like, now I'm in this tent with a pint of brandy. You want a shot, And I was just like, what? And then he was like, yeah. But I sat there and talked to him, and then a person I was with was like, he's homeless. And I was like, wait a minute, like, you don't know. And then we heard him talking, and I talked to him, and next thing you know, the real story came out of what would happen to him. He said, yeah, he's like, I still kind of go to work and everything. He's like, but the depression from that, and how she did me. He said, and I'm a guy, so I have to just, he had to survive, through that. So that was a pretty interesting thing for that guy. And I was like, damn, that's wild. And he lived like right by right before like a main really ritzy area near the freeway and stuff. Like, it was pretty crazy. It was crazy to think of that guy went through that. I'm all right, Batman. I'm all right. Every day is I think every day, even when you go through, you went through all that kind of crazy stuff that I've talked about. When I talked about this on this other stream, I haven't posted it right yet. I was listening to it earlier this morning. I think everybody goes through, when you go through those certain things, you got to kind of like every day you wake up, if you went through something where someone threatened your life or tried to entrap you and stuff and blamed it on you, but they're covertly creating these scenarios. You think every day you're breathing is a good day, even though it doesn't seem that way after the pain you went through. So like, someone put something in my food and messed me up. And I've been trying to walk a lot lately to get back up and going. I walked for like 4 hours, so I'm pretty sore today. I lost a lot of like muscle strength and all kinds of stuff. So trying to get your muscles back to normal after something that affects how you absorb your minerals in your body is pretty crazy. Like toxicity is crazy. Like, and we ain't talking about like mental, but like toxicity from like chemical exposure is waste cocktail is pretty wild if it lasts for 5 years. Like, and you're struggling. I know a little bit of, I know some stuff about it, like, because I'm into like, studying stuff and science and fish and all kind of random stuff. So I had to study up to try to get sort of better, but because whatever went through my system damaged, just, it sticks in your body's tissue and stuff when you have like chemical exposure like that, and it takes a lot of antioxidants. And I literally had to go study like all the really good antioxidants, not just your common ones, your grape juice, and you got to get the beet juice. You have to do things in pieces because you got to heal your kidney. You got to try to heal your liver. You got to try to, and on top of that, you can't even, when you have something like that happen, you almost can't even drink alcohol or anything, or anything that would affect. You can't even take truly Tylenol, even though you're hurting. So that's the even crazier part. So your body's hurting, but you can't take Tylenol because that can actually kind of affect your kidneys if something's trying to flush out of your kidney through your body and your liver, but it's damaging your liver as it's getting filtered. So slowly. So if you take Tylenol, you're going to damage your liver and keep your stuff more because you got toxins in your body. So it's like you have to be very careful. You can make yourself worse, if you do the wrong things. If you're like, oh, I'm going to take an aspirin because it'll take the pain away, and because of whatever damaged my tissue in my body, you can't necessarily do that. It'll give you relief, but you'll cause more damage to what happened to you from that chemical, whatever was put in there, that's causing you to have all these symptoms, toxin symptoms and stuff. So not a lot of people are, when they have those type of things, they don't know that they've been exposed to toxins and stuff too, because you look normal from the outside, but you'll start having muscle spasms. You'll go into insomnia because that stuff is in your blood system now, and it can cross the blood-brain barrier, whatever, depending on what chemical or what it was. If someone does something to you like that, it can cross the blood-brain barrier, and it can make you act out of your character too, because now it's affecting your brain. Whatever this chemical is, it's in your blood system and it entered through your stomach. So it'll kill off your stomach bacteria also. So then you'll be having problems with your intestines and all kinds of other stuff. There's a bald eagle. It's pretty cool. I don't know if y'all can see it. It's hard to see him. I don't know if I can get him. I don't think I can get him I don't think I can get him. It's too far away. Yeah, I don't think. Oh, there he is. It's a bald eagle. Check him out. Yeah, that's kind of cool, right? Bald eagle. Can't really make him out too good. It's kind of far away, but he's just kind of hanging out. But yeah, when you get something like that, you go through a lot of stuff. And I know some other people told me that something like that happened to them, and they said, I don't know. And I said, well, whoa. And I said, what happened to you? And then they said, I don't know what it was. So that's any kind of clue. They said, I don't know what it was, but it messed me up, and somebody did this to me. And so I was like, well, I'm not the only person this happened to, but I don't socialize with that person anymore. So I was just like them, like, in a way where I ended up becoming, isolated, trying to heal myself and run around the doctors. And then when I thought I was somewhat healed, I was still struggling. So it's like as soon as you would have a really good day from something like that, and then you have a really horrible day. And imagine you're having all these things happen. You're like, why am I weight? Your weight is just going. You're just losing weight. You're losing weight. You're losing weight. You're losing weight. Just and you're just like, what is going on? I figured it was probably For some reason I feel it was like mercury poisoning of some kind, which you can get that out of your body. With, I believe that you can naturally get that out of your body if you have like a garlic. You take a little bit of garlic. What else? Cilantro will help move it around. Um, Whatever that whatever if it's that, and it's cilantro is kind of like a scrubber, so it'll kind of scrub and get that stuff moving around so your body can get it out of you, but then it'll kind of like leave some of it residual depending on how much is in your body. So you'll have to keep taking cilantro to kind of scrub and get that stuff moving around. And then you'll need something to bind it. So you'll need like Corella, was it spirulina? You'll need to take something like that, or like a smoothie that's got fiber, something that'll be a binder. And then you need to stay on your antioxidants. A little bit of cranberry juice sometimes. What else? Blueberries. If you can get blueberry extract or something in a capsule form, that can be helpful. If you can get like a high strength one of those, that'll help because that's a strong antioxidant. If you can get, and what else? There's a couple other ones that I was doing that are really good. If you ever get any kind of a toxin or something and you're not quite sure, and you can't seem to get any relief, those things can really help. You have to be careful with the Corella to turn it into like a little health thing. But if you ever get somebody, you get something in your body, you realize it's not supposed to be there, you realize something's wrong, those things can really help you, those certain things. But the Corella, you have to be very careful. I'm by no means a doctor, but this is what happened because my doctors couldn't figure out what was wrong. They just said, your B12's low. And when that signifies, all I know what that signifies from doing my own holistic health studies and all these different things and toxin studies was the chemical. I think I talked about it before too. The chemical, whatever chemical it is replacing your B12 or whatever vitamin you're supposed to naturally be getting from whatever you eat. And that's how it's poisoning you and damaging your body internally and making you feel ill, not have muscle strength, because your body needs to have that, what is it called? You do aerobics, like your body needs to be able to get that oxygen and those nutrients to make your muscles work so you can stay strong. So even the strongest like muscular person, if they get like a toxin like that, it can just destroy their muscles and body, just like that. Like if they don't figure out what it is, they'll be as weak as a little baby within a couple months, because if they don't take action to try to slowly cleanse their body and stuff. So that's one of the things I learned about that. I learned like that. I said, oh man, I was able to do this. I could barely lift. I could barely lift like something that was like maybe like 40 pounds or 50 pounds at that time, and I was still trying to. And it was just like, it just felt like something that was like 40 or 50 pounds or something, like a normal thing you just pick up and move. And I'm not necessarily a small person, totally. It was not. I was like, gosh, man, that used to be easy for me. I'm in shape and stuff. And yeah, I couldn't do nothing. Yeah, it was crazy. But for anybody who's ever went through anything, that might be a tip for you if you've been sitting there suffering and nobody's helped you, and the doctor's like, we don't know, or you don't have the right insurance or whatever it is, you can't get that help to go through those tests. That could be your saving grace a little bit. Some of those things, to gradually take some of those things. You have to really be careful. It's like you have to go you go study and Google up detox protocols, and there's different ones. You can there's citrus and different things, and you can take charcoal if you immediately realize it. You can get you some charcoal but the thing is, you got to think about it like imagine if you were out and about and you were at like a nightclub or something, right? And then that happened, and you get home, and you can't get to no supplement store. You might not be able to afford to wait. You know what I mean? For Amazon order or something you order online that'll fix you up. You might need something immediately that'll really prevent you from going through kind of what I went through. And when I went through what I went through, that's literally what happened. They didn't have that stuff. Like some of that stuff wasn't even on hand too in like actual store in certain places. And I was like, they had it before. It was almost like they knew, it was almost like they knew that I was going to try to heal myself and I knew what to do. And I couldn't find half these things. And then I was like, oh man, I'm going to have to like drive the whole way other town in this town. And where I was at the time, I was like, they always have this kind of stuff. And it was funny because like a month later, then all that stuff I needed like was there. Like, and then I'm like, but then it was all in my tissue or whatever it was, and it was just wrecking my body. And I was like really weak and almost like blacking out. Like I was seeing like you get the little spots in your eyes. It was like that, but it was like black, like when you close your eyes and it's dark and you see them spots. It was kind of like that, and it was like, but I could feel it with my body. Like I'm about to pass out or something from something's messing me up. And when I would feel like that, I would just stay up, and that's where my the insomnia partially came from. So that went on for months, years with just insomnia. I still had insomnia up until partial insomnia up until like the last June, but it was just getting better. And I was like, oh, I'm doing pretty good, but that would only last for like a couple weeks, and then the insomnia would come back, and I'd be like that for another 3 or 4 weeks or something. So that went on for like a couple months. Then I went salmon fishing, and I was like, I feel a little better today. Like that one day I woke up and I was like, I feel kind of okay. I just been resting kind of, and I was like, let me see if I can go fishing. I caught a fish, and that kind of gave me like hope. that fish was like the hope fish or something. Like that salmon was the hope salmon to me. Like it gave me some hope. Like I was like, okay, like I was still able to fight that fish. I was struggling. Normally that wouldn't have gave me, I wouldn't have struggled that hard to fight a fish like that, even though I was using actually that was pretty cool. I used a bass rod to catch that fish. Basically like a jigging bass, like a bass rod, but it's kind of it's like a medium fast. But yeah, definitely if anybody ever went through that or had any toxins or something done to them, somebody put something in your food or feed, that's definitely just a little something. Definitely something that could help you. And I tried to help a few other people. There's some people on a couple Reddit little forums deals. They were talking about they were having the same issues and stuff, and they're like, what's happening? And I was like, somebody probably did this. You just didn't know somebody did something to you, but they were when wherever you went or whatever you did, someone knew you were on there and they didn't like you or something. You stirred somebody up who was of these evil group, or they didn't like something the way you did something, so they decided to just be evil to you, and now you're suffering and you don't know why. You don't know if they sprayed something on something to harm you. You don't know what it is. So, and some of that stuff, some things are almost untraceable if someone has, access to that kind of stuff. So, evil folk who can hack and get into it, people like that can order things they're not supposed to be able to order. They can get into stuff that they're not supposed to be able to have. So you have to, people don't believe that happens. And yes, weird stuff does happen. People will violate certain things, and no one knows how that happened. So and that's kind of how I realized. I was like, well, these people somehow figured out how to get this. They could be either they're governmental, or they're either someone who is in that, who's sicking their little watchdog hounds on somebody because they have that ability. And it's unfortunate though, and I don't know if it's because it's spiritual belief wise, or if it's, I think it's technically because of some people's spiritual belief wise. That's why some people don't like talking about their spiritual belief. But sometimes you're actually just you're a balanced individual, and you may be like, I believe in a good book, but you don't push it on anybody. But somebody who doesn't really totally believe in that, or who's had a bad experience with religion or something, I hate to say it like that, sometimes if you say you believe in certain things, it doesn't matter what religion you believe in either, or what you believe, how you believe, or how you practice or whatever. You might not even go to church, but you just believe in the book. Some people, they just hear that, and because of what they've went through with it, or maybe they had a bad experience at a church or whatever, they will attack you. They'll do evil stuff, and they'll be like, yeah, I love the devil, or whatever they will say. But you might be actually like them, like, I know, you do you, and I want to be good to you. You might be that kind of person, and you're just like, you might even curse, uh, watch the same shows, everything, and because you're like, I'm not perfect, I'm born in sin, just like you, but you want to continue to try to not be in those situations and better yourself. So there's people like that who they don't see that, they don't understand that part of it. They just know it's that book, and this is what happened to me when I was, when I went to this church, or there's people like that. So they just hear, oh, you believe her, and they just, some people just get like that, or they go, oh, because they think you're gonna like Bible thump them basically, and oh, look what you did. You think you're better than everyone. That's how they get into it, and that's actually, I hate to say it, that's one of the things that's spoken about in there about people acting like that. It talks kind of about that, and so if you know your stuff, you kind of know that. So when you see people acting like that, you're like, I'm not even doing that to you, but you're I hate that they get like this. Some people just, and you're just like, I don't know, you're not even bothering them. You're just like talking to them. You're like, you might say something like, I don't know, you shouldn't do that because that hurts somebody or that's bad, and they get upset, like, who do you think you are? Like, oh, you're one of those. Some people are like that because they've had a bad experience too. So I met a lot of people who had bad church experiences and stuff, or bad experiences because they like a pastor was bad, or someone in that church did something horrible to them, like a crime. And I tried to explain to one person, I said, you probably can't see the true enemy in there that's confused you, because there's people who are in demonic groups too, and cult groups. Some of them say they're Christians or something too, or they'll say they're Muslim, or they'll say they're in there, and they're worshiping and doing what they're shoe. But then if they don't like something, because they're part of one of those groups, it's like I explained, it's like they can activate like a sleeper cell if they don't like you, or they don't like something that you picked out that wasn't right, and they can see that you can see through that mask, and they will attack you, and you might not be doing nothing to them, but they just know, whoever doesn't like you will be like, oh, that guy, and you're like, I didn't do that, I didn't do SAT shite. You're like, I didn't do shite to you, but they will get mad. Other situations, sometimes what I found out too is maybe the person you were with was plotting something on you, but you threw up what's it called? Like, you might have thrown up like a roadblock. Like, you realized they were trying to do something evil to you, so you threw up a little weird little move. I guess it just depends, Jeffrey, it just depends, everybody's different with it. Like, I don't go like, yeah, you're going to this place because, I don't treat people like that, because I have friends. That's just that I was trying to explain, like some people. I said I grew up in a type of upbringing where, I had all people from all nationalities at my school and stuff. So, I'm mingling with Hindus, Sikhs, Korean, Vietnamese, all the different ones. I'm friends with all, and I'm playing sports with all, and I'm hanging out at their house eating dinners, and we're eating pho, and all different kinds of stuff at people's houses and different things. And so for me, you get out into the real, you get out into the world of other people. You're used to being around all different kinds of people, especially where I live now. It's like a melding pot. So we get people, we get people who come from New York. We get people who come from, Canada, who moved down here and then moved back up. And then we get people from, Tennessee that moved down here and then moved away. And, I got people who were born here that I know. They came here and then they moved over to Texas and then came back. And then I got people, I grew up with, were from Texas and went to school here and everything. And then after a couple of years, when they found their career and everything, they went back to Texas, so there's a couple of people I know right now in Texas right now. so it's just like, it's kind of how it is. And me, I always just mean like, hey, oh, hey. You mostly was quiet, but when you grew up in that kind of thing, when you meet that wrong kind of opposition person or something, and then they looking at you kind of funny, and you're like, why are they looking at you like that? And then you start realizing people are like, you're just nice and you just think everybody, and you realize it's because what you believe and the way you want to treat people, so you try to treat people good. That's the key thing, though. So in anything, so if you're just trying to treat people good in general, have an upbeat personality, be goofy, fun, you like to show your little artisticness and just have fun with it, and but you're kind of to yourself, kind of, you don't flaunt it in front of people or to them and stuff. But when you find it, people pick up on, like when they see something you do and they get weird about it, you think you're just because of the way you talk, or like I said before, how your demeanor, but you're not being mean to them or nothing. It'll make it, it'll make them kind of, it's weird. It just kind of comes out of them, and then you'll get a little bit of abuse from people, and sometimes you'll figure out that it's not just based around they don't like something about you or how it is. Sometimes it's actually they're like a cult, or they've kind of picked out who you are, or they've, and I know people too, got involved in some weird things where they were told that's not what it is, or they're like, that's not what it is. I'm getting, and they're like, everything I want, and I'm being able to network with people, and then next thing you know, when they don't do something how that group wants, they are getting kicked by the same people who said, oh, we like you, trust you. They're getting just betrayed left and right, and then maybe like one or two people within that same group will be like, no, like kind of help them out because they kept the connection, because it's all a web of people who kind of all use each other. But the key is some of those people aren't really your friend, but they say they are. So I actually, like, in my scenarios, I tried to actually build real friendships in a way. I've really tried to build real friendships, like talk to people and found out some of them were involved in certain things, and they're like, no, you're cool. But that doesn't mean the handler over them, who has more riches or eliteness, was like the opposite, and that's what it is sometimes in some of those things. And it ain't even got to come down to that, hey, Lizzie. And that's what it is. So that doesn't mean, that doesn't mean that they're, it's that person doesn't like you because maybe that person doesn't like how, they got control over all those people. So he might not like how you move because the way you express yourself and laugh and hang out with people and the way you see things is very easy. You're easy to get along with. So, and it's easy for people to be like, hey, what do you think about this? And then you tell them something, and then they may get good advice from you. It might help them. And that person might not like that because they have a controlling type of spirit over those people. And so when they see that people are like, oh man, he's cool. Imagine if someone is able to monitor everybody, right? And they don't like you. They have access to do that, right? And they can also control other people because they can sick their hound dogs who have access to these things, or governmental access on people. Imagine he sicks his hound dogs on you, but you're being a good person to those people. Imagine he sticks your hound dogs on you and says, go do this to that guy. He don't say why, or he might make up a situation why he thinks you should do that to that person. And that person, those other people, they just start doing stuff. They don't think about it, nothing. They don't think twice about it. They don't think for themselves. They just take the order. And that's kind of what I was talking about too. It's like some of those people knew you too. They might know you, kind of, and they know how you are. Some of them might have even, like I said, some of the people who did weird things to me, they literally ate dinner with me before. I literally had family cook them pies, like desserts and stuff, specifically for them because they like a certain type of pie. And I said, well, come over, my mom's making it, and weird stuff would happen. And then, it was unfortunate that, then they were like, when after stuff happened, they were like, that was years ago. And I'm like, it doesn't matter. You still know me. I knew you. I know exactly where your family's house is at this time. I know that this person you used to be around, they live over here. Or, and it's like, even if you're, people as they get older, they do kind of separate. They grow up and they move away and have kids. Some people kind of lose touch. But it's the fact is, like, when you run into them, sometimes you want to be if you have that kind of spirit about you, you're kind of like, oh, hey, what's up? If they haven't really done that to you. So when you see that and that person's like, well, we're just tired. And then you hear someone talk to you like this, well, we're tired of your crap. And I'm like, my crap? There's a middleman, right? So if there's a middleman too, like doing the evil stuff parts of things, and there's another one who wants to do good things of it, and that person's selecting out all the evil things from something and putting it on you. Yeah, that doesn't sound too right now, does it? That sounds like a smear campaign or slander and everything else. Because they have a free will too. They can be like, no, let's do this good things for this to this person. let's do this good thing that this person suggests. They can have that. They can use their decisive decision making too. And unfortunately, that's not always what happens. And especially if someone doesn't like something about you, they'll be like, yeah, he said this and it didn't work out. You need to get mad at him and do this. Like, that's what they do. Because if they think it's like, you know, you hear about people making a business. And this is a good example. Like, they make a business, someone helps them get a business idea. You explain to them this business idea could fail, because most businesses fail within this thing. And that person goes, okay. And then you say, hey, but there's a possibility of making 10 grand in 2 months, or 10 grand in 1 month after the first month or something. So the person gets excited. So you'll get a lump sum in 2 months, and within 1.5 months or something. So the person gets excited, like, that's a good little margin. I can live off that pretty decently. Okay, in some states and places. And the idea works for a little bit, and then you tell the person, hey, but make sure you don't do this or this, and pay attention, and then that's your business now. Don't do this because this could make it give you a problem, and you're gonna have to readjust so you can keep making your money a certain way. And the person goes, oh, whatever, I'm just gonna do it this way. So they didn't listen to that part that they need to readjust once they get that thing going to make sure they make the amount of money. And they don't listen to you, and then they don't make any of that money, and they lose all the money that they thought they were gonna make. And then they blame you, and they go, you said this, and you're like, I told you don't do this because this, and you have to adjust, and you're gonna have to figure out adjust. And they're like, and they come to you and they say, well, why didn't you tell me what to do? You're like, why didn't you tell me that? And you're like, I did tell you that. And they said, well, why didn't you? And then basically they wanted you to do all of that for them too, so they could get all that money just because you gave them the idea, and they're mad that they couldn't think of the rest of the scenario themselves, but they took your idea. You get it? I had someone do that to me too, and he got pissed. And a long time ago, this happened a long time ago too, when I was really young. And I said, I told you. And I said, why didn't you call me anyways when you had a problem? He didn't call me. He waited till after everything was going crazy. Oh, now I lost out. I said, that's not what you do. I said, you have to have, I said, what was your plan? And I told him, you have to have set everything out, or you need to make sure you see how your profit, it was crazy. And I said, and I even told him, I said, I don't even get into that right now at the time, at that age, but I said, I understand. And I said, but why didn't you talk to me? So that's like an example of that. And you're like, but I told you need to do it this way and pay attention so you can make little micro adjustments so that doesn't happen, because that's just how it is, because you got to keep your thing running, and that person didn't listen. So yeah, he's good, God is good. Whatever you believe in. And so that's what it is for me. So, like, some people hate it, but I think a lot of people don't want to use the brain power to study and learn all this other stuff. And they go, well, it seems mythical. There's just different things to it. So, but you're just like, no, there's like things in there. It just kind of explains. And then people are like, well, you think you're, that was funny. One person said, are you Jesus? I was like, no, because there's weird things that would happen, and I would try to explain it so to help them, so they would get, it didn't work a certain way, but I told them what to do. They would get upset, and then I said, that's why I'm not helping. I said, see, every time I help somebody, sometimes that if it didn't go how I specifically said it, sometimes then they get upset about that, so they'll attack you, like, oh, it didn't work. And you're like, well, you followed everything I said when you also have to use your mind too. And I told someone that one time, I said, you have to kind of, because you wanted to start this thing, that's what you wanted to do, and I just helped you get it going. Now it's on you. That's your baby now. Like, that's your thing now. And that person got I don't know, he got mad because he was so, it's almost like this, he got overzealous. Like, he was so overzealous to get the money part of that business. And he's like, oh, this is working, and then he didn't know how to adjust as that started happening. The money started coming, and that's what it was. And so, he couldn't maintain the right way, and so then it just started crashing. And then instead of going, as soon as it started doing something a little weird, just say, hey, can you help me? He was like, oh, it's all your fault. But it's his business, everything he started and was making money at the time. So I was like, see, so that's when I started also not wanting to, I didn't want to help people sometimes because some people will get volatile and stuff like that, and you're like, but I just helped you like start this thing so you can just make this money like that, and you were making money. It's crazy. So people can be really switchy, uppy like that too, and if they're involved in some of them groups like that, like some kind of corporate group or something, they can really, they're just looking at that gain, So sometimes that money part versus like I want to do this business or I want this thing like this, and I'll go and build other avenues on my own too to make it grow. And instead of doing like that, that person just like it didn't work like exactly like you said. I'm gonna attack you. And that's one of those things where I realize like sometimes people, that's what they get like that, and you realize like, well, I helped you, and then I've done the same thing for somebody. I helped them. I gave them the idea, exactly how to do it, and I told them you can make this much money. And they said, why aren't you doing it? I said, yeah, because you have to keep doing this way to make this certain amount of money. And I said, even though it's not that much, it's nice if you could just do this one thing that takes you like 20 minutes and you make $500. And that's kind of what it was. It was this little thing. And I said, but just don't do that too often, because then other people who need a little money, it's not illegal what it was either. And I was just like, they're not going to be able to do it because it was one of those things, it's a loophole and it was a good way to make money, and it was legal. And I was like, you can do that. I said, but then you're going to ruin it for anybody else who does that as like a side hustle hack, because you're going to overrun the thing with it. So it was one of those things like kind of keep part of that one to yourself. And he said, I don't care. And he went out, told all these people, he's like, I made like $1,000 and like $2,000 in like, a week or something like that. And I was like, oh man. And then he was like, he said, I kept trying to like, I kept trying to go to this other place and do the same thing. And now they won't give me the same amount of money and I don't make anything almost anymore. I said, that's why I told you not to do that. Because then they're like, what do you do? Because then they realized, because whatever it was, the company he was selling to realized what he was doing. And the company, and they realized like, this dude keeps coming every time he sells us something. Like, what the heck's going on here? And then they caught on. And then they sewed it up, and he like almost like he overflooded the market with what he was grabbing, flipping, and selling to this certain market in the area. And I told him, don't do that, because then you're gonna screw up all the prices for everybody else, basically, who just wants to make a couple bucks, $100 here. Some people, they would just do that to make 500, and he did it. So then it's like boom, all this, now they have all this product. Yeah, you can get that product. People want to rebuy that product for a cheaper price. But the fact was, when he overflooded it with it, nobody who's selling could get a good, decent profit now. So it was just crazy. And then he got mad about it. I said, you shouldn't be mad at me. I said, I helped you. And then I said, your greed, like you got your greed of it. Like I knew what it was. I said, that's why I said, I only do this every once in a while when I need $150, or you just went out and you expanded on that. And I told you, you probably shouldn't do that with this type of thing. It's meant to, you make $100 a week or something, a little, you can stipend your money or something and make it as like a little savings or something. That's what it's for a little side cash and tight pinch. You can do that. And he didn't get what I meant, so stuff like that. And then they're mad at you because, and you're like, I told you that. You didn't listen. You heard money. You can make some good money that way. So you expanded on it, and then you didn't expand on it properly, I guess. That would be the best way of saying it. And then you can turn around on somebody else. But then at the same time, he also ruined it for other people who were doing that. And then I was like, well, guess nobody else is going to be able to, for the next year in this part, in whatever town, in the town it was in. I was like, they're not going to be able to, there's too much of this product flooded the market because of that person. And he was like, I don't care. And I said, that's the problem. People say that sometimes. Like, I don't care. That was the problem. So it's kind of like that, if that makes sense. Like, and so you have to be careful. You're like, hey, this can happen. And when people start thinking, especially some people when they start saying chosen ones too, because people go, oh, what? And so you can, walk on water. They start, they get into all that other stuff, and you're like, that's not what it means. There's things that you still have to use your free will a little bit, your intelligence, your discernment, and then if some stuff doesn't go quite like you want, you can't turn around on another person and try to help you. Hey, sir, what's going on? I'm okay. I'm just talking. Again, and walking. The rain actually stopped too, which is good. It's kind of the stuff that went on around me, and some people, like I was saying, I met different people at the CIA and all stuff. And then some people were like, "Are you an?" One person was like, "You're an informant or something," and I was like, "No, I'm not. Like, just because I talk about it doesn't mean I'm an informant. It means that like I understand that these groups watch certain people and stuff, and they know. Let's just say like that. They know that there's. I'm 100% sure they know there's people with weird gifts and stuff. Yeah, it's pretty. It's kind of cloudy. You see like the mountain with the cloud over. Just walking in this area. But yeah, they kind of, I'm sure they kind of know that there's some weird stuff. I mean, people with weird abilities and stuff. Like some people can count cards like crazy. Like, that's a weird skill to learn. And some people could try and never could count cards at a dealer. At a casino. Some people can't. Some people can just kind of predict what cards are going to come up just because they just know how many cards are in a shoe. They don't really, it's not that they're counting, they just know. They're just kind of like, oh, there's got to be, I'm going to win eventually here because that shoe's almost gone. It's like, it's just common sense. That's not really, so it's like, it's kind of weird about the card counting thing, so yeah, if you really think about it. I had that issue before too, back when I was younger too. Because one time after I had a breakup, I went to a casino and just chilled. And I was just like, we're stewing about how she acted, and I went in there, and then it was like I'd gambled before, but I just was like, today I usually would turn away from it because I don't like it. He was money and stuff, and I just said I'm gonna go in there because I'm kind of stressed out, and upset, and I bought some drinks, and I said I'm just gonna spend this much money, and if I win, I'm gonna keep playing until I start. If I ended back with the same amount of money, I'm gonna leave. And what ended up happening, I started with $20 and I left with like 350 or 400 or something like that. And I came back again and I started winning again the same way. But it was because I kind of knew about the shoe, but I wasn't counting. I just knew the shoe, kind of how it, you 21, come on now, like blackjack and stuff, you kind of know. So I was like, oh, okay, I know I'm probably gonna. I just sat down and I was like, and I seen other people sitting there too. And I was like, I'm gonna sit right there. Because I watched how the people were winning. I was like, oh, if I sit right there, I'm gonna start winning. The person in front of me is gonna win. It just makes sense. It's just logical sense because the type of cards that kept coming up, I was like, oh, there's a little patch of cards like that. You could just tell because all the other cards previously, people were busting their hands and stuff. So I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna win. And then we started winning. And the one dude's like, don't leave because he was winning and the other person was winning. So then the dealer looked at me all crazy, like started whispering. And then I was like, uh-oh. So, stuff like that. And then next thing you know, everybody, I think he's counting. And they started, and then they're like, are you counting? Are you doing something? And then here come the pit boss down. And I said, oh, okay, they think I'm doing something. But really, literally what it was is just, you knew the odds, and you saw kind of like, before you decided to sit down, you kind of looked and watched two hands. And you're like, oh, okay. Because you're like, well, I don't want to, I'm only got $20. I don't want to lose all my money. But it doesn't mean I was counting cards. I just kind of knew the odds of what it was going to be. And that was just using your common sense. And, you saw the shoe, you looked at it, you're like, oh, okay, I see that person, that they did like two hands. I'll wait till after the two hands and then I'll sit down, I'll have a drink, and I'll come back and I'll sit down. And that's literally what happened. And they're looking at me all crazy. Like, you're trying to, they're like, hey. And I'm like, what? I was like, what's going on here? I'm like, okay. So, something, and that was like but also that was a smaller casino. But it was just kind of funny. I was like, oh, they think like, I was like, oh, okay. And then that's made me kind of raise my eyebrow too about casinos too. And I've been to Vegas and other places and played cards a little bit, but some people, I play, people get, that's another thing too. People get mad about that too. So if you don't quite know how to play the game and you sit down and you're not hitting on the right hands. Some people get mad and start making comments because they sit there and gamble all the time. You shouldn't be at this table. If they start trying to tell you how you're supposed to be at their casino, at the casino because they're losing money, and they get crazy about it but then some of those people are the people who are in that casino all the time playing. And you went there for the first time, and they're like, we should go on that table. People can be something else. Even in that, and I've seen that happen before to people, especially some of the weirder, smaller casinos. Sometimes I've seen that happen to people, and they're like, why is that person rude to me? I don't know. I thought I could just come in here, and I said some of these people are regulars. They're here every Friday. And they're like, oh, and I said, yeah, someone I know used to gamble a lot, so that's why I know. And I said, stop, don't do that. So, like, so I've been around to know. I've seen people lose their money because they get obsessed with winning that big hand, and people do win that big hand. But a lot of times, some people who win that big hand or whatever, they lost a lot. It's almost like they won all their money back that they lost over that year. So. So it's kind of, the world, people, regardless of your religion or any of your belief system, some things are just what it is. There's evil people, they're just meaner than others. Here would be the craziest way to say it. I met a nice devil worshiper before who didn't do anything evil to me. And then I met the real kind, like covertly hate you because you think some, Jesus or something, like, or you believe in that, you believe in that Abrahamic religion, and I said, well, you believe in the other one, and that one's you believe, so what's the difference here? We both believe there's some kind of power of something, and there's powers within our system, society groups, people have more money and run stuff, so why does it mean you gotta do this evil stuff? People will try to do other things to take them out and stuff. And I've always kind of looked at stuff that way, but when you talk to people that way, they get all, weird. Like, he thinks that you're just nice, and you think, it's like, that's not about being nice. That's like, who wants that? Who wants that all evil? So and people like that will put you in those situations, I think, to test your spirit sometimes, and it might be some real serious business that they try to test your spirit with. So it can really be weird. Hello. So that's just kind of how people can be, and I say people, if you come out of those situations, sometimes in those situations, the other person, I've noticed they get the person who put you in a weird situation, they get some weird stuff happen. So they assume it's you. Like I said, they assume it's you who made that stuff happen to them because there's outside group forces and little cliques and stuff. So they assume it's you doing it because it's directed at them by whoever the handler person is. So then you did that, and they don't look at it like the handler could just not like that other person and wants to see them fight. Like I said, like the day before, the cat, shake that cat, grab the cat, pin the cat to the floor, ruffle him up, get him all mad, and then throw him at the dog, and then he starts attacking the dog versus, the person who really was like, hey, instigated something. So that's literally what it's like. And a lot of people, some people involved in these weird things, they go, I don't care, who cares? Like, and I'm like, yeah, you're supposed to have no fear, but when you see that, that's the tyranny part, mixed in there. And some people are like, well, if you're, you knew this happened. Some people are in some situations, they're like, if you knew this was going on, why didn't you go and do this? And I said, sometimes you have to use your brain and not, like some of us have been around, we know what the hood's like, let's just say it like that. And it's different things is like, so you know how to, like, I ain't getting messing with them boys, or that's the dudes from the block over here, and they know me and everything. I ain't bothering them. You just know that because that's like a respect, and then some of them kind of know you, and you leave them be. Even though you kind of know what's going on, you don't get too involved in your stuff because you just know. You just, oh hey, you're like, I don't want to be on their bad side. You don't want to interfere, but when you got groups running around like that, they'll try to put you in scenarios where, those people can turn on you and act a damn fool, and there's no reason for it. So, yeah, that's why I said some of them scenarios you see in America on the news, and I'll be like, there's something shady, probably. There's probably something weird behind that, and some foul, weird play that person probably, somebody else was instigating that crap on them, and they're sitting pretty, while the other person's getting, kicked all around all over the place. Definitely, I've seen it. definitely experienced that happening to people. So, and it's happened to me in a way. So it's definitely real scenarios. I have people that I consider somewhat friend that I distance myself with because I was like, ooh, there's a lot of darkness, and you learn like, oh, I care about them, I love them and stuff, but I better get away from that scenario because it's just, you know, it's it's not gonna lead to anything good. You know, it's gonna. You can see what's forming. Like you're like, oh, there's gonna be there's dark stuff, and something dark already evil happened, and it happened to this person. So you're like, well, I'm gonna get away from that. I don't want to know. And then you ain't talked to that person in years. Then something starts happening to them. They start going down. Some people are so crazy because they're dealing with really dark energy people. They start going down their list and thinking it's you, and they're trying to figure out who is somebody rat on me. They start thinking all these things, and they get all paranoid, and they might start calling you, harassing you, and you ain't done nothing dang thing to them. You're sitting in your house, or something's already happened to you. You were living your own life. You weren't even thinking about that. Now you're thinking about something that they did 50 years ago. Because now all of a sudden they pop up out of nowhere. Hey man, you're like, what the hell? You're like, I'm chilling, or but they don't know that. They just taking with the enemy. They might be siding. They might be following what the enemy's telling them to do, and you don't want to do. You want to get away from what the enemy's trying to do because you're seeing what's being formed in front of you. So you're picking up on it. And I know people who went through some really crazy stuff and came out unscathed, but there was a lot of crazy dark stuff, and they're like, and I said, what did you do? They said, I had to just move, or I had to stop dealing with certain people, and I cared about them and I loved them, and I just left them alone. I had to delete them because they're going to keep going down that path and doing these certain things, and it's just like a bad recipe. And I hear some people, like I said, they're getting strong armed into fear. What a group can do, when they send 20 people against one, and that's what happened. And then I watched some people like that who you loved and cared about and really enjoyed hanging out with them, and you always had fun times and joking and drinking with them or whatever. They turn on you because that handler, because you haven't talked to them in a while. They're like it's almost like they forgot who you are as a person, even though they hung out with you. And I do, people do change, but who they are. And some turns towards the better, sometimes towards the worse. But some people, their characters, they try to always go towards the better. But those people doing that evil stuff can make them turn kind of bitter and cold. So, and that's just how it is. Everybody's had that friend, if you've been around long enough. Hi, hello, Ginger. Everybody's had that friend or person who, if you've been in school or something, and you get to see that thing, and you're like, oh, they're gonna go down this weird path, or they've gotten that I don't care thing. And some of them, they were already in a crazy situation after 2 years after high school, and then some, went through a little party phase, and then boom, they hit their careers, and some, went straight off to college, So everybody's kind of seen those scenarios, and if you paid attention, and if your family was around, and some people don't have that, different things. So that's one of the things with that kind of stuff, and you start realizing sometimes there's other groups pulling strings on people, and sometimes other people don't know what's happening to them. So that's why so they're just looking at the immediate people around them, because some of them are involved in it, in weird, dark, evil stuff, and some of them aren't. So they don't know who's who because they haven't learned their discernment yet. And so that's why there's some people who've been through that. They don't trust anybody. They have a hard time trusting anybody because they've experienced that and been betrayed so many times. And I'm kind of one of those people who've been betrayed a bunch of times. So, but I still try to give people a fair shake and give them some grace and be like, let me see who they are. Like, when they come talk to me and stuff. But the ones who didn't do nothing to me, mostly, I treat them, who don't do stuff to me, I hold their, if they told me something and, because they trusted me, I usually keep it to myself. But if it's someone doing crazy stuff to me and they threatening me, it's like, that's a little different. And even then, there's people who did that to me. I haven't really spoken too much about them. I just said, hey, I'm pretty sure they understand it. It's messed up. And, razzle the cat, make the cat mad, and throw it. Some of those people, that's what they were doing, and laughing about it because they had the access to do that to people. So it's almost kind of like if you have access to being a governmental power like that, and you're doing that, that's pretty messed up. That's like that's like trapping people, and then being like, so you can make a some kind of mockery example of them to their peers, and it's literally not legitimate, but to the peers, when they see that person on the news randomly, they're like, oh, that is so horrible, look what they did. That's all they think. They don't realize like, that person could have somebody could have been really pulling some strings and using other people to get that person to go down. And it's really sad that like most people don't want to dig into certain things to see that stuff. So there's certain stuff they did I'll say it like that, like I don't want to get too political, but there's certain stuff they have released that tells you that certain governments and places have done some weird stuff and to their people of the, though we have our, constitutional rights and everything, there's some stuff that goes on, and they've always kind of did that. And I think like I said before, it's like more experimental. Like they're trying to experiment and see how can we, maybe it's like meant to kind of guide the masses how they want it, while certain elites do certain things. I don't know. That part I'm kind of like, that's what it seems like, but there's probably something deeper about it. Maybe it's about the money and the power of it or something. Who knows? But there's some weird stuff kind of with that where you're like, what is that all about? And then if you study anything and you dig a little bit, you start seeing you can find some the documents they've released and stuff on people. Well, not necessarily people, but stuff that they've done. But a lot of that stuff they withheld too. They wait. It's unfortunate they do. It's really crazy that some places do that. They'll hold it for, all them years. So you're growing up. You become like a 60-year-old person. Then they release something that was from something when your father or mother was your age. They'll release something from back then when they were in their 20s or something, and be like, we were experimenting on these people, or we tested out these people to see what they would do if we could control them by giving them drugs, or all that kind of crap, So, hey, what's going on? Yeah, that's kind of what it is, and so when you're rocking around in this worldly place, as it says in the book. I hate saying it like that, but it's true. This is the world. Sometimes you got to kind of look at things in a different perspective than just what's being shown to you, because we were born in this stuff, in these countries and wherever you are. You got your television, and some places don't have television still, but you're gonna, whatever they can put on there is what you're gonna see. So you have to, see beyond that and use your discernment, and that's all it is when it comes to the Bible stuff. That's kind of what they're talking about. You need to look at that discernment, have discernment in a worldly place, not of the world. So you're in it, and you're supposed to be able to move throughout it, and try to make your living, find your wife, or if that's what you want, and that's what you're supposed to try to do. Whatever, everybody has a different path and journey, and that's kind of what it is. And the goal is try not to hurt others while you're doing it, and find things that make you happy and accomplish things in your life. Unfortunately, there's things in society that guide you. This is how it's supposed to be, because that's what's happening at that patch in time in society. So you don't have that certain car, you look like a loser. You don't have this much money by this age, it means you didn't try hard enough and you had no plan. But most people forget, especially when you're younger, you forget that there's things that can be out of your control. There's other factors. So the other factors can be, you might have all the skills. They don't like how you look when you went for an interview. You go for an interview, you find out the other person who came to that interview is best friends, who's with you sitting in that waiting room, is best friends with the dude who's interviewing you. You think you're going to get the job, but there's only one spot open. That guy gets the job. You don't know that when he's interviewing all those people. And that's how this sometimes is not what you know, who you know. Sometimes that happens. So you have to look at things a little different, because you could be qualified for that. And sometimes when jobs do that, then they call you later. Sometimes that's why you get that call later, because sometimes that person to work out with their skills, but and that's the job you wanted to have money. And then they call you later after they just kind of threw you off to the side because that person they put in there didn't work out because of someone they knew they thought could do it. So, so yeah, so it's just that's just kind of how the work world works too. Weird stuff like that, and some people used to call it good old boys. Like they look out for one another, and that's good. Especially in like the military stuff. It's good that they did that kind of thing where they help other when the veteran gives back. It's good that they kind of give them a little preferential treatment. Some of them. I've heard some bad stories about that too. I know quite a few people I went to school with too who were in the military. So told me crazy stories and how when they came back after they were going around doing all that roadside bomb stuff, and told me some really interesting kind of stuff about stuff like that. But like how kind of weird things were operated, and some got treated really well and some kind of got swept under the rug. And I learned stuff about some from wars before that, how they kind of, it's almost like they aged them out. I hate to say it like that because for most of the part they treat most veterans pretty good medically and stuff, but I've seen how some people kind of get treated weird and got aged out, like had little ticky-tacky things happen with their med. It's weird stuff because I'm not sure why. I don't know if it's funding, what's going on, but that shouldn't. To me, I was like certain things I saw with some of them, especially the ones from certain wars and stuff. I was like, that should never happen. But I'm not trying to be political, but that's just as human to human, humans to humans. That's just it's like, hey, that's kind of those people went out there and that guy's friend died and all this happened and they're treating them like that. And then you see the hood stuff and you see people just dropping left and right over bags of drugs and beefs and people were drunk or whatever else. So you're like, you got two different things going there that you need to try to avoid in a certain way or deal with them in a certain way depending on what your choices are. So can be kind of challenging, but that's the world, And it's different for everybody, whatever their scenario is and how they're brought up and what situation they're in. 2 parents, 1 parent, their parent had a bad situation, that one did, There's a lot of that kind of stuff. So, but just when I was thinking about it, it's like, yeah, So when I think about some people when they go religious, sometimes it's kind of funny kind of how they get mad. They go, I don't like them, or some get weird about the Mormons and the Jehovah. And the things I've experienced, I know deeper than that. And I'm like, oh, well, some of those people are fine, normal people. They might not like something how you are because you're born as in, you're not perfect, or you don't believe or whatever. But there's some of them really good people. They're not judging you. They won't judge. They might not like you've done some things or you slept with someone before married or whatever. But they're not. Some of them are probably on that level. They understand. They're like, well, that's not. They don't believe how I believe. So they're not gonna attack you. They might say, hey, you should go to church or something. They might say that. But there's some, they're overzealous, and those are the ones that I think the thumpers that really bother people, those are the ones that create that weird disconnect. I'm not one of those. I've been around people of all different kinds, Mormons, Jewish, European Jews, and Muslims, and all different types of them from different cultures to like different parts of the globe too. And so I kind of understand. I'm not perfect, but I'm fair with it, about it. But I know there's people who've had bad experiences, so I don't like it, I don't like this about that. So but that's just kind of how it is, so some people, when they hear you say something about some God, they get kind of, ooh. Yeah, I see that. I see it. Ben hybrid. It's interesting. Ben hybrid. Yeah, it's kind of how it is, man. But yeah, some people just, and so I get it, there's a lot of other people on the streams and stuff. They're like, I don't like talking about it. Depending on whatever their subject matter is, but me, I fish. I do. That's why I have jack of all trades, because a little bit of everything. I do believe in the Most High, but I also am not perfect, and I don't. I try not to make people feel like that. I'm like, oh, I used to kick it with the boys and sit, go to the nightclub and do all that stuff, just like normal any other younger person when I was that age. So, and get into stuff that we shouldn't have, and learned my lessons and matured from it. So, some of us just tried to stay out of it sooner, while others just kept going that way, and others tried to get you into stuff that you shouldn't. And some of it not even by their own fault. It's not even their own fault. It's by others. It's by the darker forces of other people strong arming them to act that way. So sometimes it was promises of things to these people. So you doing? I'm just walking, man, hanging out. It was raining. I'm in the rainy state, so in the evergreen state, it was raining, and it's Friday. Decided to go chat for a little bit, thinking about going fishing and streaming, deciding if I want to fish trout or what I'm going to do. I'm going to have to go get a new fishing license here pretty soon. But I was just talking about, just things I've kind of experienced. I talked about it quite a bit, different scenarios and stuff that happened to me, and what was done to me, evil and darkness. So scenarios that were crazy, and I mean, at one point, when I say it like this, at one point when I believed in my faith a certain way, I would be like, I didn't. At one point, because such evil happened to me, I spent 5 years walking the city, almost like walking everywhere to get home, and I had a home to live in. But I couldn't work a job because I was being attacked by a cultic group of evil. So certain things and it was over a relationship. So I had to walk everywhere. People honked at me and mocked me, picked at me. Some were total strangers. Some people were people who seemed to be cool to me before, but changed up on me because of the handler over them. So you like Dungeons and Dragons? Is that what you're talking about? Or is that what you're talking about? Or is something else? Because when you put that abbreviation, I'm thinking about the what's the other one? People always say D&D on that one too. They call it something else. I can't remember what that game is. What's that? Some game or something. I can't remember what that game is. So I do play some video games still. So I know what the Easter eggs are in a lot of these games and stuff too. I met game developers and stuff too. That's what happens when you start traveling, and being around and network with a lot of people, and you're kind of easygoing. You'll meet a lot of cool experiences because of your nature. So you'll meet a lot of cool. You'll get to be that you get to be that person who knows a game's coming out before it's even released. You get to be that person sometimes. You'll get a little Easter egg sometimes because you were around people like that who have access to that elite stuff. So. But sometimes you see the darker side of that because the money and all of that kind of anything that has when there's money or someone can get rich, you're gonna see the darker side, the shadow side of that, and you're gonna be like, ooh, that's what's underneath it. But everybody loves that game, but you might know something about it. All the stuff going on behind the scene, you're like, ooh, there was some really fights over that game before they released that, or you'll see a game, you're like, yeah, there's some weird stuff in that game, but nobody's found it yet, or there's stuff like that that's hidden within certain stuff. So yeah, you're talking to a guy walking around a lot of stuff and whatnot. Nothing wrong with that. Hey, I at one point I was laid up and I couldn't do anything almost. I couldn't walk like this. You have no idea the pain I was going through. I couldn't walk for 4 hours. 4 hours. I couldn't stay on my feet for 4 hours. No, there would be no way. So I'm grateful every day that I can just walk in a circle for 4 hours or an hour and talk about these things. So by the grace, that's by the graces right there. Just in general, as anybody would if they've been, were laid up and stuff, and people picking at them and telling them, what are you going to do? And they're trying to make you not be able to make money and wreck your life. You'd be happy just to be able to walk down the street and not have no one harass you. You'd be happy when you see that other people you know who had that aren't getting that no more, and they're smiling on their face. But that stuff that happened make you lose part of can make you lose some years, and some people don't go through none of that. So not many people go through that. So they think everything's all hunky dory, and they never had 10 people attack them from 10 different directions and do stuff to their car and shut down their car and go under their car and steal their spare tire and put it on their car and switch them around and do all these little covert evil stuff just to screw up their life a little bit. You know, when a person who's in some group tells you, well, maybe things will be effed up for a while, and then they do it anyways, even though you didn't do nothing to them, they're creating duality on you. So, you know, dark side and light side, they're creating duality on you, and they're demonstrating, yeah, we evil too. So, if you can wrap your head around something like that, then you start realizing what it is. So you'll see people that's why you see people who sometimes have lots of money, all of a sudden some crazy weird crap happens around them. You'll notice too, sometimes after they have a breakup or something, some weird crap happens, because there's other forces watching these people and sending in people who around them sometimes that shouldn't be around them, be doing them like that. And that's just a fact. And I'm sure some of those people hate it, can't stand it. And some of them are great, and they're like, I found the greatest relationship. But I know some of those people, when they find that relationship, man, they don't. They stick with that person. They don't. They be like, I'm not messing with anybody else, because they know the evilness of it. And some people, these people who are in that, they do the evil to their partner after they just told them for years, they might have been with that person for 6 years and told them they loved them and wanted to marry them, or they would be cool to marry them, and then they'll do some evil to them. And you're being real to them, they think you're the fake person. So there's some wild stuff like that out there in this world. Yeah, you too, man. Take it easy. Sad. You said sad face. Yeah, it just happens. So people crazy. Some people wild like that. People wild like that, and that's what it is. And the best part is trying not to be. The best part is trying not to. Just don't let them turn you on other people because of what they're doing to you. That's the hardest part to fight. That's the hardest restraint. And some people, I had really good discipline, but the last go around with I realized that this person was going to just do this anyway, regardless of how the separation was or what they believe. And they supposedly were Jewish too. And I realized it mattered, it did not matter. It didn't matter. They still did it. I was like, you're not gonna, I ain't gonna do nothing. And they did it anyway. And did crazy stuff to me anyway. And my whole thing with it was, when they did that, I told them, I said, don't do that stuff, because the same way how you're treating me can happen back to you too. They can reverse that on you. If they do if it's evil in there. And their mind of it was, no one will ever do that to me. They won't do that. And I said, who won't do it? And I said, oh, so you are a part of something weird thing. They won't do that to me. And I said, I just shook my head, and I'm like, you really think so? I was like, if they're willing to do that to me, or this other person I know, and they had a hard time, and that person was a really good worker or a nice person, what do you think? What they're gonna do to you? And you're doing all the evil stuff. And if you want to go into another belief system, you go into tarot cards or different spiritual, different New Age type spirit belief. They would call that, that person built up karmic debt, so it's about to turn around, and they didn't stop what they were doing. They didn't repent. On my side, I'd be like, well, you didn't repent nothing. You didn't stop. You just kept doing evil. So that builds up. Then some crazy stuff happens. So they even in that New Age belief, they're telling you, you built up some karma there. It's like when they talk about dark, you could even go into, you want to go into I guess kind of like a physics of it. You could be like, all right, dark matter, like light matter or white matter, same thing. With for every positive reaction, there can be a negative reaction. For every negative reaction, there can be a positive one. That's kind of that's duality. So that's what some of these groups believe in. So everything's all good, and they'll go do something. They'll make something happen around you, do evil, just because. You're like, I didn't even do that. I moved on, but you didn't move on to somebody they wanted you to get with, and you're like, nah, because something evil always happens. You're not sending me good people. You're sending me evil people. If it doesn't work out, you're gonna do something evil. They're treating it like a business, money, business. You're not treating it like care of the soul and heart and stuff. And I met people who that's how they got their partner, their relationship. And when I see them on the street walking, they don't look happy. Like, let's say like that, they're walking, they have like the straightest robotic face, if they're not smiling and laughing about anything. It's not only a few of them, I've seen that too. And then I've seen ones that were like that, and I talked to them, and they were laughing when I talked to them. They're like, "Oh, you're cool, you're funny," like, and I'm like, "Oh, I just hope y'all work out." And that group couple worked out, but some in those situations, I saw the couple look like they were miserable because it's almost like they felt like if they're going to get another one of those people, get another person who's worse or eviler, because there's manipulation. It's not like a true get to know the person, their spirit, and get real love connection for that crap. So that's what I learned about some of that stuff too. So that's the unfortunate part, and that's why in some of those situations and partnerships and stuff, some of those people bounce around really a lot, until they find somebody with money or something. And some people do that and they're not involved in all that stuff because that's what they're being that's what's kind of being pushed on you. So, and society wise. So that's, to me, is just being aware of things. So when you see those things, you see people going, I need to get that. It's not always about that. They're being pushed they don't even know they're being kind of like molded to be like that. Like I said, I was talking yesterday before about conditioning. So they're being conditioned that way by what they're seeing in society or what they see on TV, what they see on the cable show or reality show. But now we got YouTube, we got other platforms and stuff. So some people can kind of talk a little bit about this stuff, and then there's still some people out there who don't want you to talk about it. They get me, like, they feel like you're revealing something, and when it's not, you're not really it's kind of right there. If you think outside of the programming of your television. So if you want to look at it like that, if you want to look at that, then you start seeing it and you start going, oh. So it gets tougher too as you get older, because a lot of people been through that ringer, and that's regardless of what your spiritual belief is. And that's if you don't believe or anything, and that puts a little scar on people, men and women. And so that's why you hear about that now. That you hear about also on TV, people are like, they're all getting divorced, or they're all getting this, or they're not. People are getting together, but they're not wanting to marry and tie up that financial thing because people are too fickle. They're too fickle with it because it's too much about materialism in a way. And there's nothing wrong with wanting those certain materials, but because some material is they'll dump who they love to get with somebody who has material item. And I get it. People are like, well, my life's set now. I'm like, I get it. That means you can move around like that, and that's how you move that's how your soul moves. But truth of the matter is, there's people who really have like a really different type of soul to them, bond to them, and they're very super empathic. Basically, they're super empaths and all that other kind of stuff. So they feel others' emotions really heavily. So when they have a bad relationship, it tears them apart. And those people like that have to really learn how to deal with their emotions a certain way, because they're picking up on the pain of others and stuff too. Some people are like that, so it's so crazy. They can't see needles, they can't have needles touch them. Like, physical things are even worse for them, depending on who they are. So if they see someone in a sport that gets hurt in a sport, they feel it, and they're just watching it on TV. They almost like they feeling it right there, and if they see something like that. And people like that, though, it can put them in like a, hey Jeff, they could put you in a emotional mental spiral. It's just real stuff, So, gosh, it's funny with the subscribers. It kind of, you want to really know, it kind of comes and goes. So depending on how much you stream or what you post, and everybody has different personalities of how they like stuff. What they're into. Some people, I was saying yesterday, some people are set on what their content is gonna be this, or like some people just do dancing ones, shorts and stuff and different things. And then they got, they have 14,000 or people sub to them. And then some people, some people only have like 100 videos, but they have, 5,000 people. I've seen people only have like 50 videos. There's over 1,000 people on there. So it just depends. Sometimes some people just live and then they cut their lives. The lives help because then people get a little bit more longer time to see what they're looking at or who you are, kind of, and if they like how you talk about things or if they understand, they can relate to you. So I think like month and a half. So literally you gotta think like a month and a half or so. That's like a subscriber a day. 1 to 2 subscribers a day for a month. That's 30 days, 31 to 30 days in a month. So think about it like that. If you look at it like that, that's not too bad, and that's like if you're not even pushing and really motivated, you're just kind of taking it easy and putting together things that you like or whatever you want your content to be. So, and it's also how you present it yourself too. You can just, me, I'm just like, hey, you like what you like hearing what I'm saying? Hey, cool. Drop a like, sub. It's free to sub to somebody. And then if you keep liking the content and stick with them, cool. You get to know them and talk to them and stuff. And sometimes I chat with other YouTubers all the time and hang out. And I've met some of them in real life before I even really did YouTube and talked about it. And fishermen, ones that fish, ones that do other content. And some were friends before I even did content, kind of like knew of me, like we really socialized a little bit. Some kind of became more friend-like too, and I learned different personalities, and some you didn't get along with, some you do. So like 2 months, and you'll see jumps and spikes too in your subscribers and stuff. So you'll see drops, ups. Someone might not like something you said, so you see 2 people drop because they're pissed off about something. Then you'll see them come back. Sometimes they'll come back and sub you again. Sometimes they'll disappear. So you can't kind of worry about that sometimes. You have to just kind of keep going, because people are gonna subscribe to you. They're gonna subscribe to you and rock what you're gonna rock with you. And people who are super a certain way, sometimes won't. And that's just kind of how it is when you're doing something like this where you start streaming and stuff. I mean, obviously when I first started, I was kind of shaky. I had a channel shut it down. There was some oppositions and bumps with other tubers because of different things, and there's history from other things before I even did YouTube. But I had to give grace for certain situations. And I had to kind of forgive them. I got upset though, because sometimes people still kind of hold a little something on you because of the stuff that happened, and it kind of sucks. Sometimes you're just like, crap, I can't really talk to them and socialize with them and be like, hey, this is what's crazy about what's happening. They it's just like when you're delivering your YouTube content, they got a depiction of what they think everything is. So sometimes it's more technical. I guess that would be the words for it. It's more technical than that sometimes, because we are humans. We have emotions. We have feelings. We have things we're seeing, and you got to analyze stuff. You got to be able to have some common sense when certain things happen. So that's the thing with when you're streaming and YouTube and stuff. And sometimes there's technical difficulties too. When you try to stream, it's raining. You might have a hard time if you don't have the right type of phone, and different things, or the stream won't be looking too good, or sometimes it's the area you're in, and sometimes it's because you're moving. Like now, like I'm walking, so it's like sometimes it probably looks like it's like, and it's like it's the type of camera. But you gotta, if you want to do YouTube, you gotta start. If you wanted to get the 50 subscribers, you just gotta start and do something. You just gotta start. Just go for it, start, and just realize, some things you probably shouldn't post, some things you should. Some things might set people off. Some people are gonna be trolls. some people are gonna understand you and crack up with what you're saying. And you're like, I get you. This is cool. Some people will be like, I don't like that. Some people might, some like potatoes, some like potatoes, some like pop, some like soda. It's like a different word for the same thing. So that used to be a funny thing too. Actually, when I used to travel when I was younger, when the first time I really went somewhere else, so it was a funny thing. I was like, especially in those days, it's like not so much now because we have the internet more. But back then it was funny because you'd go to one town and then you get a couple states over from where your state you're in, and someone would be like, "Oh, you want a soda?" And I was like, "What?" And they had like a little accent, and I was like, "What the heck?" And they're like, "Yeah, you want some soda?" And I was like, "Soda?" And I was like, where I was from, everybody said pop. There was still I was around mixed to mingle with people, but it was just kind of funny, But now, everybody's, now the internet, you can see all different people from all over. Some people call it pop, this. Same drink you call that, pop here might be called something somewhere else. And they have a slang name for it, but it's really like seltzer water and something fruit juice, but it's kind of like that. So YouTube's the same way. There's some of these platforms. There's many flavors for all the different types of people. There's people who want to really BS on their channel and have fun and talk, and then there's people who want to talk about politics, and you got people who want to talk about the rap industry, and you got people who want to talk about the different cities, what goes on in the hood and things. You got a little bit of everything. So it's all on whatever your focus is, or what you want to learn about, or what you're interested in. Is it entertaining to you, or do you want to, or you're looking more to learn something? So, are you more of a analytical thinker, or are you more of a you want to learn how to do something DIY, do it yourself type of person? And that's the great thing about the YouTube and being able to stream and stuff. So you can show people a lot of things. People show restaurants and all different kinds of things, and there's a lot of streamers where I live. Especially when summer gets around, there's gonna be a lot more streamers rumbling around and stuff. I'm sure if I really start getting to go fishing, I'm probably gonna run into a few of them, depending what areas I go to. And I've met streamers who are in other states and stuff too. So it's cool. It's kind of cool, and it's all on what you're trying to get out of it. Are you having fun with it? Are you gonna have fun with it? Are you gonna let it stress you out? And you have to get through that too, because sometimes you might get a little discouraged when you're first trying to get to that 50 mark. And it's nice if you kind of, be around a little bit and you start to intermingle with other people, and then they kind of hip you to some things because they've been streaming longer than you, or they can help you a little bit, and hey, check out that person's stuff. They got this, and you can, you say, hey, check out this person. They got a good channel too, And that's the way it should be, and then that person can decide if they like that channel or not, And I think that's how that's kind of how you should go about it. And then it becomes just more easy, and it's easy, it's authentic, it's natural, regardless of your content. But there's people who they have more professional looking content, they have more higher end cameras, and then you got the smaller streamers, and some smaller streamers are actually pretty decent sized big streamers. They don't have 1 million people, but they got 25, 50,000, 100,000. That's still a lot of people. So that's the thing about the YouTube thing, and everybody has different tastes and stuff. And me, I like all kinds of different things. And like I was saying, I was like, people were like, "Oh, Jesus and stuff." I said, "Yeah, but the way I grew up, I was around all kinds of people from all cultures and non-believers, and people who didn't like certain stuff because I believed in what I believe, and then just because they heard you believe in God, and but then when they got around me, they're like, "No, you're really funny, you're cool." And they're like, "Oh, you're actually cool." When I actually got to sit down with you, and you're not pushing all this craziness on me, and you're sitting here drinking a beer with me. I'm like, "Yeah." I was like, "What'd you think I was gonna do?" I'm not gonna do nothing. Like, "What you think, man?" I was like, "What you think this is?" People's assumption, because they're safe and you believe in a certain religion. When people hear the word, it's like I said, people hear the word religion, when they hear that word religion, that's like for some people. So you say, "Oh, I believe in this." You meet someone who reads cards. Sometimes the person who reads cards, when they hear you say something about some Jesus or something, they get like, "Oh gosh, this person's gonna say witchcraft." And I'm like, "Yeah, the book says, the Bible says that, but I'm not gonna treat you. I'm not gonna get after you over it because you're not really doing that." But I do. I met people who actually did witchcraft, which is real witchcraft. So and hung out with them. And that craziest part, I became. That's what's crazy about me. So I had people who did witchcraft who were friends with me and didn't do anything to me. And the ones who weren't doing the witchcraft stuff were the ones doing all the real witchcraft on me, doing real illusions and evil to me. So if that tells you anything about stuff, it's different about that. It's different. It's also the spirit, the soul inside the person. So that's what I've experienced. So I met people who do that stuff, don't do nothing, didn't do nothing to me, were the nicest person, did all kinds, and then loved hanging out with me, had food, they would go out and hang out with me, stuff. And we would kick it and have a great time. And then I met the opposite, they don't believe any of that, and they were doing all kinds of evil stuff to me. And going, you believe in this. And it's all, and yeah, so that tells you something about the spirit and how people are brought up or what they've been supposed to or brainwashed into. And people worry about people who believe in the good book, talking about those people are this. And it's like, nah, there's different levels of that, just like there's different levels of devil worshipers, there's different levels of that too. Like I met people who were like that. They were not bothering me. They were not doing evil stuff to me. And then I met the other kind, the worst kind. So and I met others who believe in a totally different belief. They believe in something totally different. They believe in Celtic and all kinds of other stuff. So, but I just always treated people with somewhat respect. So some of them, when they got to realize how I am, they left me alone. Bohemian, all that kind of stuff. I met people like that, but I met some that just they're taught a certain thing because certain things are powered and run certain things. So they're taught to hate. They're literally shown a real truth of something, and then they're taught to hate someone who believes in, believes in the Bible and stuff. So, and you're not even thinking like that. And that's the kicker. Sometimes you're not even thinking like that. You're just like, hey, I'm just out here trying to live like you. I'm not trying to do nothing crazy, evil to you. I like fishing just like you, or I like, a good pizza, homemade pizza just like you. I love me a good ribeye that's untainted. Nobody did nothing evil to it. It's nice and grass fed just like you. Or I like a nice vegan meal too. I like a little mixture of everything. I do try to avoid pork sometimes. Just it's a health thing. Too much of anything is bad for you. Too much red meat, too much whatever. But I try to keep it within an understanding and a balance. And it's hard to do that because everybody comes from some different background. So and different experiences too. Some people have had a lot of negative experiences with religion too. And I met a lot of people like that who attacked me, and then I explained my way of viewing it, and then they got to know me a little bit. Just like they're like, oh, you get mad too. You're not trying to pay. I said, no, I'm not trying to play goody goody. You just felt that way because I said, hey, you probably shouldn't do that. They realize, oh, you're not playing goody goody. You don't like all that craziness. And I said, yeah. And I said, just people get that in them, that manipulation in them, and manipulation is manipulation. If you take it, I said to someone else, if you take all that out, you take out all the religion part out, just look at that person as a person. Okay, I saw manipulation. I saw someone else manipulate the situation. That's the root of what that interaction was, and then there was a fight or an argument. Take the religion part out, but and that's you're still getting the same things. Someone didn't like somebody didn't like something someone said, someone didn't like how someone operates because that's how they were raised, or the situations has molded them to that. You get the same reaction. But some people who believe in, I guess, their biblical stuff or certain things, it kind of is it's just kind of like a guide to give you like, hey, I shouldn't treat people this way because it's more drama and energy expanded. Looks like we got something going on here. Somebody got abducted. That's not good. Hold on here. Didn't quite say where. It looked like a alert was just given out. Somebody did something. It just sent out one of those alerts. So yeah, can you see? Hey Tom. Yeah, you gotta look at things with a kind of like that thing, and that's why I was like the restraint is the hardest one when you, especially when in anything you get arguments and stuff or misunderstandings. And so it don't matter what you're. Misunderstanding. Someone trying to throw a little monkey wrench and be sneaky and throw an illusion is an illusion. It's like if you have to learn about that stuff. You have to go and some people, well, in my case, we've experienced what true illusions are in the world and false pretenses are what things really are. So we've experienced that, so we kind of know. And so sometimes when some people talk to us or we meet someone or we're going in a new situation, we have to really feel out who they are, because some of those people already kind of know who you are, or at least they think they know. And a quick perception of you can be built off of a couple bad, ill-advised reactions. Let's just say that. And sometimes those reactions, if you have any to something or something that's happening to you, can be spurned on by someone manipulating something or pulling an illusion. So, and I'm aware of illusions and things and people, and like you need to create illusions, and in some ways, sometimes you almost have to, in a way, to deal with some of the eviler people. You almost have to make your own illusion. You almost have to make your own little boxed illusion, so you can live your life with some kind of happiness sometimes. And that's what it is. That's kind of why they say build your life and go become this, because you have to kind of, this is what I want to do. But me, I was just kind of like, I'm not sure. What's that? That's interesting. What's that? I was just kind of, one person was like, maybe you have ADHD or ADD. Because you're kind of bounced all. I said, no, I just like, I'm interested in all these different things. I always was like, what is that? What is that? I want to learn something. What is that? And so learned some different things. Hey, crazy. I barely can make that out, y'all. For some reason, hold on, let's see. This did this last time I was saying on the stream. Let's see. Aha. Yeah. All of a sudden, the dimmer, it just started dimming everything. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah, it's just kind of what it is. Like, someone told me that too. Be a preacher. I said, no, because when you do that, people get all weird about that. So, because that's a lot. You like I said, you're a leader. You're leading. So, I like to lead in a different way. I'm like, hey, this is a little cool thing. Perfect either, because I don't want that positioning kind of like that. Because if you do make a mistake, everybody comes down on you like, I can't believe that preacher cheated on his wife. You see, he was weak. He fell weak to that. He fell weak to the female form. He fell weak to the female form. See, so. And trust me, I've seen situations like that was purposely done to people too. The women sent to dudes to destroy their marriage purposely. The girl came up there to destroy that because their marriage was fine. They making money. They got everything you could think you want. It seemed perfect, almost. And then that girl was sent to him by somebody who's kind of evil. They're like, hey, let's test him. Like, let's send in this like really full-figured, pretty, voluptuous girl. Let's see what happens. And I seen it happen. And I said, that was done on purpose. And then that girl was gone. That dude was like, lost his kids and all this stuff. And that chick was gone, like, right after that. She's like, I got him. I don't care. That's what she was like. I don't care. Like, she's like, they sent me over. These evil people sent me over there to do that to him. So that's why I said the little honey trap girls sometimes. I said, I can't be dealing with that. I don't like the fakery. Like the rappers, nah, I don't like the fakery. Because I had enough of it, so. Had enough of it. I have actually sold some jigs actually not that long ago. I just kind of take them as it goes. I don't, like I said, I just tie whatever, man. I don't care. For me, it's like, cool, beer money, cool. I need to get like some material over here. Oh, I want to try to make this fly. And then I still, because like both 4, I think, because I wanted to try certain things. I dropped like 150 because there's some things I wanted to tie. And for me, like the real strops are like a certain distance away. So we have quite a few more than some states probably, because we have all the salmon and stuff. So, and and I ordered some stuff for it too. But sometimes it's kind of nice to go in there, because when you see like a new product or something, you can test it out. You can like look at it and like open the packet and be like, do I like it? Would I want to try to create something with that? Or should I just stick with the mainstays that I know, so yeah, I went and picked up some more Chanel stuff to make stuff like that. I want to get me some squirrel though. I only have a little bit of squirrel right now. I need to get more squirrel. Like that's what I need, because I usually tie a lot of, I tie a lot of bunny hair jigs and stuff, and twitchers and stuff. I was trying to, I've got like enough now for what I want to do, but there's a couple patterns that I made on live. There's one that like I've always the woolly bugger one. I'm playing around with that one because I had a lot of fun catching salmon on the woolly bugger marabous jigs, and just different color combinations. And I was kind of like, man, I want to do some coho colors on a couple of those. That's why I made the cotton candy, because I was like, I had really good success with that just on salmon. The cotton candy, when it was the pink and coho and king run, I had really good success with that. Like I just put it on and I was like, well, anything can kind of grab this, but the pinks were thick. So at that time, that year, so the year, but not the last year, but the year before, or the year before that. So it was kind of like, I was like, it's not too thick, but let's just see. And this year they're saying they think it's going to be good. So we might have a lot more pinks than we had the previous time. And so it might be crazy. It might be so crazy. It might be this crazy when the fall comes here in our state, to where you can't get through the pink salmon to get to the coho salmon to catch it. And that's when there's a lot of fish in the river. So then it's like, if you can't catch one of these and present the lure or your eggs or whatever you fish with, then something wrong with you, because there's just too many. There's too many that where they can't. The lure's got to be in front of their face. They can't get out of the way of it. They're gonna have to fight it. So this is kind of how it is. Yeah, the muddlers. Those are good for trout, the muddlers, and then bass. I love muddlers. Those are good bait, good flies. That's what I was talking about. Like they had like the Dalbird, like the Dalbird. They're kind of like the gurglers but they're the deer hair and stuff. Those are pretty cool. I don't tie that stuff, much of stuff like this. I used to tie those though, like the kind of like the sliders and stuff. But I never got into really wanted to tie the super technical ones, because I just like never felt I had a need for it. I was like, I just do this and this and that works. So, but it's fun to time to see, to get your skills and use this, the different skills of spinning the deer hair and then using your scissors to shape it. It's really good to play with those patterns. Get your coordination in your hands up, coordination up. I really kind of like that part of it, because I make this. They're kind of like the slider kind, and they're almost like they're a popper, but they were out of deer hair. Just takes a lot of deer hair when you make it, so you gotta, depending on what the size of the hook, you gotta spin that hair around that hook to get that sprayed out effect and trim it. So, and I was like, God, that's kind of why I was mentioning on one of the lives. I was like, I need a new pair of scissors. These scissors are really sharp, but I need like a fresh pair to do that. And I was like, these ones are good, cutting all that rabbit hair, and I've had those scissors for a long time. And I'm like, they're getting dull a little bit. I noticed it the last couple times. Like the point and tips on them are really sharp, but I was like, they're still getting a little dull for cutting certain stuff. Size 4 muddlers. Brown muddlers. Right now I have elk. I have a bunch of elk around, and I sub out the elk for the deer hair for elk if that's what I got. Because it's kind of the same thing. It's just the color of it. It's like the natural color. So I have like kind of like a darker, not like a dark brown elk, but kind of like a light tan elk. A couple pieces of it. I could tie muzzlers. I think the only thing I need, personally, all I need to have muzzlers is I just need the turkey, the turkey quill, the part like to make the backs for the like where you make for the hare's ears. I need that part of the feather. Just because some of there's different muzzler patterns. That's the thing. There's a oh, you know what? I don't know, crazy saying. You know what? You know what ones would work? What are they called? There's a marabou muzzler pattern, and that might work. Be pretty good for bass because it's kind of resembling a sculpin. So the head is like a muddler, the tail is like a marabou, like an olive marabou, and then you like accent it with red. So like I was saying, that bleeding sculpin, like, you know, you ever seen a sculpin when it's on the bottom, if you ever seen a sculpin follow your worm in or something, they'll kind of flip around, you know, they kind of scoot around on the bottom sometimes, and they go under a rock or something, and you'll see their little red flashing of the gills sometimes because they'll be picking up sand and trying to grab your worm or whatever. That's kind of, you know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah. And I go, that's the one spot, and the one where I was fishing, there's like this rock. That's why I was like, there's a rock right here, because I know there's this big boulder right there, and then I didn't want to totally say it, but one of the areas, that's why I was throwing in there, because sometimes there's smallmouth in there. There's this big boulder, but you can't see it because it was overcast that day. But there's a big boulder that's right next to that wall, and sometimes the smallmouth make a nest. Like I've caught smallmouth there because they make a nest right there, right next to that boulder to cover as protection. So that's why I was like, yeah, but I was like, I'm probably gonna catch trout. I just had a feeling because I was like, it's like really cold, and I was like, a snow droplet hit my arm, and I was like, yeah, I'm probably gonna catch trout if there's anything in here, and that's what it was. I was like, yeah, there's just a bunch of trout feeding in here right now. But that same area, I caught some really nice smallmouth and largemouth in there. Those little docks and stuff, you know, some draws them in, and when that bottom's clear, they try to make nests and stuff. So I was like, let me just see, because that little same spot I caught smallmouth right there, and I was like, I know there's a boulder there, though I can't see it. I know there's a stick up right there, though it's, you know, I can't really see because it's not, you know, it's cloudy. I know it's there. I'm like, I know it's there, like in that area. I haven't fished here in a while. Like, I know it's there. And I lost the lure there, and I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, it's still there. There's something still over here. So. Yeah, they have I have like kind of like the tan elk, and I have like an olive green marabou. Because you can make those muzzlers in some cool ways. They've so many variations of it. Other people have changed it up, and I have like some of the old recipes too for how they set those up. Like, but I kind of like the marabou one. That's kind of good. And I have actually, you would like that. I got this book. You would like it because it's like it's like a panfish fly tying book. And it's like, what's his name? It's a well-known fly tyer too. Dave, I think it's Dave Hughes. Dave Hughes. And there's a lot of patterns in there for bluegill, crappie, even perch. There's patterns for perch in grommet pattern, like a very simple grommet pattern in there. A super simple one. And you catch fish with that. I don't even tie them, but those are all the ones in that book. I only tie like one of them. But I have that book and shows you what materials you need and everything. I can tie them. They're easy patterns. But they just catch fish. But a lot of those patterns are from him, and he kind of came up with it. And some of them are really simple. I was like, that's like a simple pattern. And he's like, you just catch panfish left and right, and they catch smallmouth left and right. And then there's some with there's another one in there. It's like kind of like a deer hair popper type of thing in there too. They give you like a bunch of the different ones that resemble all the foods that the bass in the panfish like. A couple bait fish patterns in there, and they're very simple, very colorful. Some of them too. One of them's like a rainbow almost color, and I tried a few of them and tried them out to see if I could catch some perch with them and stuff. Perch are pretty easy though. They're kind of easy to. I thought it was okay. Okay, yeah, I'll give you guys a minute. Hey, Rude, 99. It drank up the juice. It drank up the juice. I ain't worried about no 999 or any of that stuff, honestly, because a lot of that stuff is just that's the person's soul, man. That's their nature if they want to be evil. Not was it? And wait, what does that got to do with me? It's like if they're pushing that towards you, and you're like, man, I didn't do that to you, and you see how they interact with their families or something, and they're being all nice. You're like, you kind of look at it like this is kind of whack to just go, you believe in that? I don't like it, or I want all them eliminated. Because honestly, what it is maybe I think maybe it shows it sheds light on the evil what someone would do that they're hiding, using different techniques and stuff. So, but crazy was it here, and he said buffering. So, yeah, I could tie some of those if that's what you really want, just to have them fish with them and stuff. I don't mind. Hold up. Let's see if that. There it goes. These goofy people. Sorry, man. There's no need for that, man. You don't know people. Just because you see someone walking and taking a walk, you don't know them. You don't know them. Even if someone was homeless, like, still that shows immaturity and ignorance. So, talking like that, unfortunately. And I used to be a young person too. I used to not understand that stuff. This person I just saw in the chat shows ignorance when you talk about people who are homeless and stuff like that. Not everybody who's homeless is a druggie or crazy stuff. Like I said, I talked about that too. Yeah, I met people who had all kinds of nice things and then they end up homeless. So let's see here. Oops, getting messages. Hold up. This is weird. Oh, there it is. Oh, what's this? Oh. This is just a reminder. Sorry. Yeah, I was doing. Sorry, the stream kind of crashed. I noticed. That's why I was. Sorry, y'all. Stream crashed there. Sorry, crazy man. You're like buffering. I restarted the stream though. So if you are in here, yeah, you could just email me crazy. And say what you want, and then we can converse. And then we can converse and whatnot. So yeah. For me, it's like whatever, $10 here, that's fine. For me in the situation I'm in, anyways, like that's good. Little pocket change here or there. Until if I can even get fully back up and going. That's why I'm walking. That's why I'm trying to walk around, so I can fish. And maybe I'll be able to do the live stream. But this thing just died. I put it on the power bank. I was like, I got a little bit more gauge on how much power this thing will before it goes out. So that 2 hours before it died on me, and I had 80%. So yeah, definitely have to have a power bank to definitely, yeah, have to carry the power bank with me. Definitely. Definitely need your power bank if you're doing these streams, folks. So if your phone will get hot when you're streaming, and especially you're out and about places, your phone will get hot and different things, and drain more battery juice than it normally would because you're streaming live. Just for anybody who's getting into it, start streaming. So that's what just happened to me. Had to slap it on a power bank just to continue the stream. Now I'm in a totally different place. Well, I'm over here now. And got back into the car now. Oh boy. Hey, and I see Rude. I see that message you though. 999. Like that doesn't even bother me though anymore because I know what goes on in this world. So when someone says 999 or yeah, I was like that doesn't bother me. I understand there's people are weird like that, but and I understand something gets into them when they act that way. But a lot of people I met who are into the dark stuff though, at the same time though, they didn't want nothing. They were very protective of their children. So I mean that goes for anybody. So like to me, the universal thing is don't try not to do evil to others and stuff, and not to cause all that craziness and weirdness. And that's it. You can converse. You can make money together. You can do all kind of stuff. You don't have to. Oh well, because you're this. That's what my cult grew me up to do. Hate you, Christian people. And that's what's funny. Some people are just like, I just believe in the book, or some people are just like, some people believe in other Abrahamic religions. So it's just ridiculous to me. And the nature I have is like, I'm just chilling. So this is ridiculous to me. He's like, this doesn't make any sense. Regardless of what controls everything, it's like that's ridiculous. Oh, we're gonna try to make it so only we run everything. It's all. I said, yeah, but then if you think about it, if everybody's jacking up everybody over some evil stuff, that's just chaos. That's just like I mean, we have enough of it. For society's had enough of that for years, and most people don't like evil crap going on. So it's ridiculous. What's a big conversation is one of the big conversations was back in the day was a schoolmate he was like, well, he said we'll never have, like I said, I said it before on a live, we'll almost never have a utopian like society, almost because of that kind of behavior, covert behavior. Beep. Yeah, you were talking about the beep patterns. Yeah, we were talking about that before. I'm looking back through chat. Let's see. I don't know if Crazy's in here, but I don't know what he says. Size 4. So size 4. That's what he said. Size 4. Yeah. Yeah. So Crazy. Yeah. Just email me if you're jumping on the stream. Just email me. That's what's in the description. We can converse in there about flies if you want to buy some flies or something, or you want something like that, or you want a certain color to look a certain way. Plus, I'm getting ready to do like a riddle. I gotta do another like a little mini store run pretty soon to get some materials, because I might do some salmon patterns. Australia. What part of Australia? I don't know all the parts of Australia, but what part, Samuel? I'm in Washington, and it's raining. The rain started coming down again. Maybe it's a good thing that the phone kind of was acting up because it just started raining again. We were talking about different things, fishing and, well, humans interactions in general on a Friday in the States. Human interactions and a little bit about religion, groups and stuff. Brisbane. Okay. I always kind of wanted to go to Australia, but then I started thinking about them crocodiles, those crocodiles and stuff, and I was like, dang, I got all those crazy snakes and the funnel web spider, Sydney funnel web spider, and those crazy different types of poisonous snakes over there. But we got them here too. And the state, we have poisonous snakes in Washington too, over here. But we don't. It's a type of rattlesnake. We don't have a bunch of tons of things like Australia does. We have like one or two, couple things, and like little small spiders, wolf spiders, and what do you call them? We got what are those things called? They have really huge fangs. They eat the potato bugs, but they're a type of spider. We have those. They have huge fangs, but they eat potato bugs. They eat sow bugs. They're like a specialized spider. And then I think we have a type of trapdoor spider too. But people don't know we have it. I think we might have a type of trapdoor spider. But it's a mini version, like a Sydney funnel web, but it's a mini version. It's like a mini version of that spider. So yeah. I'm in the car. I'm not walking right now. Had to restart the stream. But anyways, I was talking about it's kind of preaching. Tom was in here. He's like, "You're preaching to me." I was like, "I'm just saying, man. Fishing life. Hello." I'm going back through the comments. I'm going back through the comments here. Matthew's Adventures. Hey, I might have missed it because sauce. Zoe's Life. Hello. I don't know who that person is. They put an L there. Well, let's remove that one. People just crazy. Yeah, but anyways, I was just like wanted to wish folks a happy Friday because I'm sure if you're in the States or wherever you're at, I'm sure you're having a get people getting ready to start that Friday evening out and go have fun and hang out with friends and everything else too. Try not to let the evil get to you and treat others a certain way because you have different beliefs. That's the most key thing I think in anything. For it don't matter where you at in the world, because nobody likes to be treated evil or to have 10 people come against you because of your belief or something. And even though we see these crazy events that happen on news and everything, no matter what country you're in, what place you're in, and I'm not perfect. I've been put in evil situations too, and but you don't know until you're tested, and put in weird situations. So you don't know until you're tested, and even then, you realize stuff about them situations and why you're put in those situations. So they're evil people trying to test you and put you in weird situations to try to be like they make you. The holier than thou thing kicks in where they try to be like, yeah, you thought you were holier than thou. Look what I did to you. Some people are like that. They operate like that. They think they get a kick out of that. Look what I did. But the truth is, if you see through the darkness of those illusions, you realize, oh, that person set all that up and make that happen to me. So no crocodiles. Well, it depends on what part. Like, depends on what side of Australia, I guess. Oh, you're on an island. You got crab. Do you have those mud crabs there? Those big old mud crabs. They got the big old huge claws. They bury in the mud. Like they're by the they be by those what do they call those? There's those one trees and they grow and then they go in the ground and it comes up and that's like how they breathe, like in the mud. I forget what those trees. You know what I'm talking? Mangrove, like the mangrove trees. I figured that's what those are. You guys probably have those, the mangroves. I always wanted to go fishing in there, and I did want to catch barramundi. I was wanted to go there just because I wanted to try to catch barramundi, and I wanted to go there to try to catch you guys have those those little. They're a type of like I don't know if it's like a snapper or something, and then they have like a type of cod. Some of those in Australia, it's like a cod or something. They call you guys call it something. You guys might have a nickname for it and call it something else. That looked like that'd be kind of fun to catch and see what it tastes like and stuff, and uh, fish some like type of shrimp jigs and lures for them. Oh, and squidding. Looked like it'd be fun to go squidding in over there because it's like looks like it's a different type of squidding than it is here where I live. We have we squid the same, but it's different. You guys have I've seen people use a different type of squid jig to catch squid over there in Australia, and the squids are like larger. It seemed the type they were catching from those areas and stuff. Yeah, those mud crabs are pretty. Those mud crabs are pretty crazy looking. I don't think I want to get pinched by that because I've seen how strong a Dungeness crab is. Like they don't look like they're that strong they don't look like they have that much strength like that. But when you try to grab those claws a certain way, like when you try to grab those claws, they snatch that claw away from you. Those crabs, a large crab like that. Yeah, I've never been. I don't know. I always wanted to kind of go over there see. I ordered something from Australia. Commemorative. What is that? It's like a commemorative coin, and it's actually something to do with the Secret Service. And I ordered one of those, and I was gonna order this other one, and it's like a type of like Australian money thing, just to have it like it's part of like it's part of my numismatic collection. I have like some copper bars and little stuff I just kind of have around, kind of cool to look at and stuff. Very too much pollution, like yeah. There's a streamer over there that I'll just say I've kind of met him, but he's from Australia. I met him once a long time ago, long time ago. But his lives are pretty big, and I watched some of his, and I don't know what that fish is, but he fishes kind of in the city areas, and that's what I'm thinking of, like pollution. He was saying something about he didn't. It's almost like maybe some areas he was fishing. He's like you catch stuff here, but you don't necessarily want to keep it or something. We have some areas like that here too, kind of where like you don't necessarily want to eat. You want to eat. You can eat the fish, but you don't want to eat tons of that because it could have toxins. And certain species can have more toxins or pollution in them than others. So I don't remember what place that guy, but he streams, and sometimes I watch his stream. But his streams are usually like early in the morning because it's different time. You guys are on a different time frame. So for me, it's early in the morning. For him, it's like night. It's like getting towards late at night, like night fishing in the ocean or something. So like when I see him, he's getting ready. He's getting ready to end his stream. I'm getting up for my morning. So sometimes I'll sit and watch him fish and watch him stream on TikTok and on YouTube a little bit and watch him fish to see if he catches anything. He does a lot of bait fishing. So I can't remember that area though. He was saying though that town he's fishing out of, but he has a couple spots he goes to and fishes. Pollution. That's the running thing. We humans, man. All that forever plastics they done studied down. They're finding out that there's medication in the rivers because people throwing the pills down the drain, and they were saying the fish are reacting to it. And I think there was a study they did on that the animals were reacting to the chemicals too and acting different because they're they're living in that water, and then we go and catch the fish and eat them. And, oh yeah, you too. Nice chatting with you. Yeah, okay. I'm gonna now that you said that, I'm gonna check that out too. 1950s Aussies. I'm gonna check out what those are like, what those are about. That'd be something good to add a few to the collection.
I know I had to order some stuff, and it took a while to get here because I had to go through customs. It took a while to get here. It took almost a month to get it. Almost a month to get that package because of the customs and stuff. It wasn't too bad, but it took a little while coming from all the way from Australia. But all right, y'all, I'm gonna get off here. I just wanted to check back in. It's stream for a little bit, talk about some stuff. I hope everybody's doing good. And I ain't tripping on the evil ones. I mean, even though they've done some really crazy stuff to me and other people I know, some people who don't even believe in what I believe in. So you gotta kind of, but something you gotta say about it because otherwise people don't know you're getting hurt and stuff. So. All right, y'all, be good to each other. Happy Friday.